PTF and JK, 10 horses we really want to see run at this year's Breeders' Cup. You're going to hear our ideas during this video. We want to hear yours. Go ahead down in the comments on YouTube and let us know who you want to see most at this year's Breeders' Cup. You could do a little ranking, you could name names, etc. I'm going to start off with an invader. There is going to be a very strong participation from horses coming from around the world. You're going to be hearing a lot about Japanese horses, including one a little bit later in this video. But we're going to start off talking about Lake Victoria. This horse, when I first heard they were going to send her over here, and obviously we're doing this early, so it's not 100%, but I was surprised because this is a level of form that exceeds that of other Aidan O'Brien runners who've already done incredibly well in this race. Talking about races like the Cheveley Park, big wins at Newmarket, Moyglare Stakes, other, multiple Group 1 type races. JK, I know you never have to have your arm twisted to include the well-fancied European runners. Lake Victoria, this is one I think you're going to want on your radar.
Yeah, look, there's some times where I believe that we have some special ones over here to offer. It doesn't feel like one of those years where we kind of have one. So if they have one that they believe is special, and it sounds like Lake Victoria might be one of those to come over here, I think they could be tough to beat.
Let's pivot to our next horse, JK. This is one that will come as no surprise to people who regularly listen to us on the In the Money Players podcast, because you've been talking about this race for this horse since Saratoga.
Well, I'm a huge fan of Carl Spackler, a huge fan of E5 Racing. They brought us Rushing Fall, who was so much fun all those years. And the thing about this horse is that anytime a horse can win multiple times at Saratoga in multiple years, you kind of start to grow a special place for them, right? Casa Creed, an example of a horse that won there multiple times. Jackie's Warrior. And Carl Spackler now is one who's won at Saratoga a handful of times, but he never really was getting over the hump until he won the Grade 1 4-star Dave. Then he comes back, he wins the Coolmore, Grade 1 Coolmore Turf Mile at Keeneland, and now he's the American front runner for the mile. I'm excited to see those green and purple silks, some of my favorite silks in racing. Looking forward to seeing Carl Spackler. He's one of my favorite horses.
Speaking of silks that we're fans of here at the In the Money Media Network, we may be accused of being homers for mentioning a horse that does belong to one of our sponsors, but that is not why we elected to put New Century on this list. That was such a terrific race last time up in Woodbine.
Absolutely, and the race at Woodbine this summer has become a productive race in terms of this juvenile turf. And the thing I liked about this horse is he's been running, right? He had that, he had run a couple of times, and he was beating a couple races back, but then he shows back up here, and he does it the right way. And I think he's going to continue to improve, and definitely going to be rooting for our friends in the Claret and Gold.
Claret and Gold of Qatar Racing, New Century going with a very big chance, presumably stable rider. Oisin Murphy will be in the irons come Breeders' Cup time. I know you, like me, are a fan of the idea sometimes of coming up with a pick long before the past performances come out. Something will happen in a race and we'll say, okay, that horse is going to go on and do X. This is a case of maybe a horse we picked months ago to do X going on to do Y and Z. The race I'm referring to is the Kentucky Oaks. When the Kentucky Oaks happened, I had two thoughts in my mind. One, well, gee, I really underrated Torpedo Anna. More on her in a little bit. The other was, and we just saw our test stakes winner in Ways and Means. Can Ways and Means go on to parlay that type of success with a win in a race like the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, JK?
I think she can. I mean, I think there's some other fillies, obviously, that deserve some attention. Horses like Vava, Society. The thing is, though, is that Vava and Society, the types of races, the types of numbers that they've been running throughout this year and even previously in last year, Ways and Means is doing that as well. And she's been doing it in the middle of the summer as a 3-year-old. She came back and ran fast again later in her 3-year-old year. You'd like to think she's going to take another step forward. And who knew it, that Chad Brown was going to be sitting in line to win 3 in a row in the Filly and Mare Sprint. I think Ways and Means is pretty special, and I'm really looking forward to seeing her run in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint.
You mentioned Chad Brown and the chance for 3 in a row. That obviously makes me think Goodnight Olive. That makes me think of our all back-to-back Breeders' Cup winners ranked video that we have coming out soon on our YouTube channel. best way to make sure you keep track of all of our YouTube content, much of which is exclusive, is to go to the In the Money Media YouTube channel and make sure that you subscribe. We cheated a little on this list. It's a top 10, but we're really going to talk about 12 horses because in the next 2 spots, we're going to talk about one horse and then the key rival for the race. We'll do one. We'll have a quick sponsor break. We'll get back with the other double act. But let's start with the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. The horse that I'm putting at the top of my own short list right now is East Avenue. This horse that won the Futurity at Keeneland really stepped up off that promising debut to show that the future might be now for this runner who gives Maxfield 2.0 vibes, but maybe even better than Maxfield, in terms of consistency if we can get a race like the Breeders' Cup Juvenile going to him. But it's very hard to talk about him, this exciting front runner, without talking about who will probably be his key market rival, the very charismatic closer, Chancer McPatrick, a horse who with tongue maybe half in cheek, said after he won his maiden at Saratoga, I think we might have seen the Derby winner. East Avenue, Chancer McPatrick, how do you separate them? Which one of these two are you most looking forward to seeing at the Breeders' Cup?
Well, I think I'm really looking forward to seeing both of them. I think that's what's so much fun about these Breeders' Cups, right? Is, a day at Saratoga or Del Mar or Keeneland, you can see a superstar and you can see superstars running, and that's great. But something about what happens at the Breeders' Cup is you get 2 superstars getting in the gate together and the excitement that goes along with that. So the idea that East Avenue and Chancer McPatrick are going to hook up on that first Friday in November, I think is pretty exciting. And the best part about this race is that one of these 2 horses might not even be a horse that I would pick or bet in the race. I think the Juvenile is setting up to be a pretty special event.
I like that. That's what's known in the biz as a teaser. JK, of course, you're going to be a big part of our In the Money Plus coverage. In the Money Plus is sponsoring this video. You'll have grid picks in there. We're going to get you involved doing some of the betting strategy work with us. We're also going to have horse-by-horse write-ups of all 14 Breeders' Cup preps from the team and the best coverage of European and Japanese shippers you're going to find anywhere. You can get it all for $20 along with a regular month of In the Money Plus and all the extra content that affords you. inthemoneypodcast.com/plus, the place to go to check that out. One more time, inthemoneypodcast.com/plus. Let's get to one we mentioned earlier when we were talking about the Kentucky Oaks. Torpedo Anna, certainly on the short list of horses that I want to see. Currently, the shortest price favorite listed in international markets. But I know, JK, you and I have an idea that as much as we want to see Torpedo Anna, this is going to be the toughest test today because she's got another Breeders' Cup former champion to contend with in this race. That's why we made this one a double act, Torpedo Anna and Idiomatic.
Yeah, I mean, look, Torpedo Anna really kind of ripped respect out of my hands, right? I thought that, she was a little bit too slow. I didn't think she was going to be able to compete with the boys when she ran in the Travers, and she did so. And she did so and almost beat who I think is possibly and probably the most likely winner of the Classic in fierceness. So while she's earned my respect, and I do think that she's a very likely winner of the Distaff, that was prior to October 6th when the real Idiomatic showed back up. Right, Idiomatic's kind of had a little bit of like a star-crossed year, right? She's so talented, but it's like she just always is in these situations that haven't worked out for her. But I think if you work backwards to her past performances, you can kind of excuse some of those situations. And I think the opportunity early on Saturday morning of the Breeders' Cup to see these 2 horses get in the gate together with kind of the old versus the new, that's always exciting. This is one of my top moments I'm waiting to see. And I'm hoping that it can duplicate the last time we saw something like this, where a talented 3-year-old and an older champion got in the gate together, a la Songbird and Beholder.
It would be amazing if we could get another clash like that. Current odds, who knows? Maybe we'll do a buy, sell, hold type video at some point, but we'll do a little preview of it now. Current prices, Torpedo Anna 11-10, Idiomatic 7-2. I'd be leaning with the latter. I assume you would be too?
Absolutely, at those prices.
Yeah, just not that much between them, in my view. Going to be an exciting race, no doubt. One of the races of the weekend. Another horse that could be in contention for that honor, I guess you could call it, of being the shortest price favorite. Is going to come in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. International markets a little confused about this one without knowing who all is going to be showing up from their contingent, and they probably will have a runner like Brad Sell, who we've talked about all year on the In the Money airwaves when we do our international coverage with Vanessa Ryle, who will be joining us once again, part of our team for In the Money Media and In the Money Plus. But Cogburn certainly deserves his place at the top of the market. And gosh, if you made me make a bet with the prices are right now internationally, the slightly better than 2-1 on him would be a no-brainer. Horse is just a beast. Is there any beating Cogburn in your view?
No, I don't think so. He's special. He's absolutely sensational. The races that he's run this year, the figures have been outstanding. And I think that he is a extremely likely winner. He hasn't really ever had very many gate issues as well, which is comforting, knowing that if he pops away from there, he's going to be tough to beat. And he's also going to have at least a little bit of an edge, I think, in having a little bit of a shorter race, right? He's shown some versatility in the way that he finishes his races and his style. I think that 5 is going to help quite a bit. I'm very excited to see Cogburn run. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I was there for the Kentucky Downs race, and on paper, JK, I just wanted to beat him going into that day. It had been one of his subpar, by his own lofty standards, efforts over that quirky course before. Clapped eyes on this beast out on the track, and it was just like, oh no, there's no beating this horse. I mean, he really is a physical freak to go along with the performances he's put up. Certainly a place to plant the flag, I think, in a lot of wagers and potentially in an event like the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge, for which we're going to have a ton of coverage as well on all of our different channels, including In the Money Plus. We went with sort of a triple act for these top 3. I talked about the Distaff as the race of the weekend. The other one that I think really has that potential feels like the Breeders' Cup Classic, such that we have our number 3, our number 2, and our number 1 horse we're most looking forward to seeing at Breeders' Cup, all running in it in the order I jotted them down, not necessarily order of preference. We're talking about Forever Young, who made a successful return to the races, the early speed figure work that I've been doing in conjunction with Alex Henry on these Japanese races from the NAR circuit, puts Forever Young's figure from that run right with the best of what even a runner like Fierceness has run. Fierceness himself, have we seen the best of him yet? I'm of the view that maybe we haven't. The idea that this horse could move forward, I mean, boy, how could you not be looking forward to seeing him? And then City of Troy, we started with an Irish Invader. We'll end with another one. This horse's European form has been spectacular of late. He's showed a lot of toughness. He's impressed onlookers, including myself, with his appearance as a potential dirt horse. This is going to be an amazing clash. And you know what? 3 ways doesn't even cut it, JK. There's other interesting older horses, other interesting Japanese horses who are going to be turning up to give this a shot at being the race of the weekend right there now, as it is in the middle of the card on this Saturday of the Breeders' Cup. Give me your thoughts on this year's Breeders' Cup Classic from this early time.
Yeah, I mean, to round out this kind of top 10, that's a de facto top 10. These 3 horses, to me, are going to make this very exciting, right? The Breeders' Cup has long been advertised as the World Championships, but so often in certain races, like the Classic, like the Juvenile, the dirt races, it's really not. It's more about the American horses and what interesting things might show up from elsewhere. But this year, more than ever, it feels like this really is kind of the meeting of 3 legitimate, talented horses from across the world. Really looking forward to Forever Young, how Forever Young ran in the Kentucky Derby, the comeback race, like you mentioned, the figure work where the figures look to be very competitive. City of Troy, who looks to be a special type, who's being prepared a little bit differently than the Irish and Aidan O'Brien have prepared horses that they're going to run in this race. And then Fierceness, right? 2-year-old champion, Travers winner, previous Breeders' Cup champion, 111 buyer speed figure. We're going to get to see all 3 of these horses hook up. And at any point of the race, I think it's going to be very exciting to try to put your eyes on them to see what they're doing. I'm very excited to see all 3 of these horses in that Breeders' Cup Classic.
Early lean, if I asked you to try to separate them?
Yeah, I mean, I got to stick with the home team here, and the Mets, and the blue and the orange are the Mets that are about to what do you don't say tip off? What do you say in baseball?
What is the best way? I don't know. They're about to play. They're about to throw the first pitch. I'm not sure where to go with that.
There you go, the first pitch.
We'll see. They've been resilient all year. We'll see which of these horses can be resilient when it comes to this year's Breeders' Cup. Keep it locked to the In the Money Media YouTube channel. We're going to be back with much more. And if you're listening on the podcast side, we're going to be back right after these messages.